Hey everyone, welcome to the Sustain the Range podcast. I'm Lauren, your host, and this podcast is a personal exploration of my experiences in everything ranching. From beef operations to training horses to sustainable farming and regenerative practices, we'll cover it all. Each episode features enlightening conversations with guests who bring their unique perspectives and expertise. Whether they're seasoned ranchers or first-generation farmers, we all share a common bond and deep appreciation for the land and the livestock we raise. Tune in each week for engaging discussions, inspiring stories, and practical insights from the ranching community, and let's embark on this incredible journey together. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sustain the Range. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far. And in this episode, I had the pleasure of chatting with amazing Blaze Stewart. We first met at Ranching for Profit School last December, and we instantly connected. Throughout the week, we had some incredible conversations, and I really felt like she became somebody I could open up to. Blaze is not only stunning, but she's also incredibly down to earth with the beauty that shines from the inside out. In this conversation, we dive into a wide range of topics, from rodeo and breakaway roping, her career as a Western influencer, to the challenges facing today's first-generation farmers and ranchers. Blaze shares insights into her daily life working on her husband's family ranch in Texas, to the dynamics of working on a family ranch and the future goals she and her husband have set. Blaze is such a joy to talk to, and I'm sure you'll love her as much as I do. So let's dive in. All right. Well, thanks, Blaze, for coming on. I really appreciate you being here. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I know that this conversation is going to be great, and our audience is going to love it. So thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to kind of catch up and chat about some things. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. So Blaze and I met at Ranching for Profit School down in Texas, which was so cool. Met some really, really awesome people down there, and that's how you and I got introduced. And I'm so glad that we did, because I thought that we really clicked and we had some great conversation, and so it was really cool. How did you like Ranching for Profit? What did you think about it?
I loved it. I thought it was an absolutely amazing experience. Honestly, before the school, I was so nervous and like so intimidated to go. And I just felt like I was going to feel so out of place. And that really was not the case. Like, I loved it. I loved our group. I felt like we got to talk about some really great things in the agriculture industry, especially, surrounding ranching for profit. And
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that you were in my group, because I do feel like we hit it off. We both kind of clicked over like the horse industry right off the bat the first day, and then just kind of went from there, and we kind of shared a lot of the same experiences. So I definitely recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. So I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself. So tell us where you're from, where you grew up, your experience with horses and agriculture so far.
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Tonganoxie, Kansas. I now live in Texas, but I grew up showing horses. I also did some high school rodeo, some youth rodeo. I was involved in 4-H and FFA. I showed some hogs, some sheep, some goats, a little bit of range and all of that. Um, but I never really ranched or anything like that. I was kind of strictly horses and rodeoing. I also did some rodeo queening growing up, which was really cool. Looking back on it, I'm really grateful for those experiences that I had through that. I feel like it taught me a lot of people skills. I was able to make some really great connections through it. I ended up going to school in Oklahoma for my associate's degree in ag business, and then I rodeoed there and transferred to West Texas A&M and Canyon, Texas, and I got my bachelor's degree in agriculture, media, and communications. I still rodeoed a little bit there, mostly went to jackpots, roping, and I also did a lot of social media. My sophomore year of college is actually kind of when I got into more of the social media things. My mom had a boutique when I was growing up. And I went to Dallas Market with her one year, and I was helping her buy some clothes for it. And I just told her on the way there, I was like, it would be so cool to model for a clothing company. Like, where that came from, I don't know. I've always loved clothes and like doing my friends' makeup and whatnot, but I don't know why I wanted to model all of a sudden. And I actually had a clothing company ask me while I was there, like the most random thing. I walked into their booth and they were like, "Hey, we're doing a photo shoot in New Mexico and you should come." And so my mom and I went to that photo shoot and it just kind of took off from there. I started sharing my outfits on Instagram and things like that and kind of built up a following. I shared, my lifestyle, how I rodeoed, things like that, just kind of my everyday life. And it really kind of took off from there, which led me to meet my husband. He actually messaged me on social media and we met the year the NFR was in Fort Worth. So I was there working a booth and we had met there and the rest was kind of history. He was going to school at Texas Tech, which was only like an hour from me, hour and a half. So after we graduated, I actually moved back to their family ranch and stayed in their hunting lodge. And then we ended up getting married. And so that leads me kind of to where I am today, being a full on ranch wife and working on the ranch and being involved in agriculture, even more so than I was growing up.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Going back to Rodeo Queenie. So for people that don't really know, could you kind of explain that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of different rodeos that hold, have title holders for that specific rodeo. And then, they have state titles. And if you win a state title, you go on to compete at Miss Rodeo America, which is in Las Vegas at the NFR. I never did that, but I did run for some local rodeo queen titles and national Little Britches queen, just some different ones like that. So basically, to compete, you take a written test, usually on rodeo events, the rodeo committee, different things like that. You give a public speech, you compete in a horsemanship competition, just some other things like that. And then once you win the title, you hold it for a year and you basically travel around to other rodeos, either within that association or outside, representing the rodeo that you have the title for, and meeting people, doing some community service, public speaking, just different things like that.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I knew what it was, but I didn't know that all of that went into it. What are you currently doing with rodeo now?
So I haven't been to any rodeos really in a while. I went to quite a few jackpots, breakaway roping, and my mare kind of got hurt, so I've kind of taken a step back from that, and we just have some younger ones that we've been riding. And I also am learning how to team rope. So I have started heading my husband heels. That has been quite the adventure to learn. I really didn't start roping until my junior or senior year of high school. Mainly did barrel racing growing up, and then, they had pole bending, goat tying, all of that. I never really had the opportunity to rope. Neither one of my parents rodeoed. My mom grew up raising cows, and she rode a little bit. But my sister was the first one to barrel race and everything like that, and I kind of followed in her footsteps, and then took it a few steps farther than she did. So it was always a learning experience for us. And where I grew up in Kansas, there just was not a lot of people that roped. I mean, there were a lot of people that ran barrels and whatnot, but there was no one to really teach me. And so when I decided I wanted to do it, I kind of taught myself, which has given me a lot of bad habits over the years that I've been trying to break. But I had a horse that, I would say he was my heart horse. I did everything with him. And I literally went to a rodeo one time and it was like a little youth rodeo, Christian youth rodeo. And I told my parents, I was like, I'm going to break away this weekend. And they were like, all right. And so I had a horse that he was actually a reining horse. And I showed him in Western Pleasure and English equitation and all of that. And I goat tied on him. I just did everything on this horse. He was the best thing ever. I borrowed a rope from somebody. I had them show me how to tie it onto my horn. And I just backed in the box and went for it. I was nowhere even close to catching the calf, but that was my my first go at roping. And thankfully I've gotten a lot better since then. It's been a big learning experience, but it was definitely a lot. So definitely still doing that. I love to breakaway rope. I love that it's becoming such a bigger thing at rodeos for women to get involved in, and I certainly hope it gets added to the NFR soon, but I'm not barrel racing anymore. Basically, just roping, breakaway, and team roping. Hopefully, someday I'll be able to run barrels again, but that's not where I'm at right now.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, and first off, like, how cool is it that you kind of just jumped into it? Especially competing can be really intimidating at first. Like
So intimidating.
yeah. So, I mean, how cool is it that you're just like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to jump in the box and go. So that's really awesome.
I mean,
Um,
I definitely got judgment for it, but I feel like that's just kind of part of it. Everywhere you go, you're gonna have people that judge you, and So, but yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, no, that's super cool.
So
And actually, I'd love for you to kind of talk about to the breakaway stuff for people that might not realize. So,
so it's over the last few years, it's been added to a lot of the bigger pro rodeos, and it's kind of really starting to get some traction. And it's in the American now. It's at the
mhm,
Patriot qualifiers, all of those different things. Um, that you can enter, but it's not in the NFR. They have the national finals breakaway, but they hold it separately,
right.
not during the NFR and not in the Thomas and Mack. And well, I guess they have done it in there, but they say that they don't have enough television time or time during the performance to do it, which there's a lot of acts or things in the beginning they could cut out to allow for breakaway. I mean, most of these girls are roping in a 1.9, two flat, so it's not like it
Yeah.
takes a whole lot of time to run girls through. And it's definitely a fun event to watch. If you've never watched it, you should check it out. Those girls are amazing. I cannot rope quite that fast. I hope I can someday, but
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I know I've seen a lot of stuff going around about it just, with the push to make it part of the NFR. And yeah, I mean, I don't do it. I would love to do it. And when I saw your video like not too long ago when you were doing I think it was with Justin Boots, and they had videoed you, I was like, Blaze is so cool. That looks awesome. She's so good. Like, so it is.
thank
It's
you.
such a cool thing. And watching those girls on TV, I mean, yeah, it's like, man, they make it look really easy, but you obviously know that it is not. So,
Yeah, no, I
yeah.
wish.
So, oh, awesome. So, I would love for you to kind of talk a little bit, maybe just going back to your start with social media and modeling with clothes and kind of where that's brought you to today, with all of the brands that you work with, and kind of how that's what it's like for you, having grown that over the last few years.
Yeah, so like I said, when I started my sophomore year of college, I was at the time majoring in agriculture business, and I ended up getting my associates in that. But through kind of growing my social media and things like that, it made me realize where my real passion was, which is why I went into media and communications. I probably should have done something more marketing wise, but I loved my degree. I loved the program at WT. Um, but I started out working with smaller boutiques. I feel like there's so many gals in the Western industry now that do the influencing, which is absolutely amazing. I love that. But kind of when I was starting out, it was a newer concept. Most companies didn't really know how to, work with said influencer, I guess. And it was just really fun to help smaller companies grow their business. And I found a passion in it. Yes, it was fun for me. I got to wear all these fun clothes, model, create content, but they were so grateful. Like it was helping them with their marketing, and then they could use the content on their page and things like that. And it's just grown over the years. It helped me get through college, being able to do some paid partnerships and things like that. And even today, while I'm at the ranch, we kind of live in the middle of nowhere. And so it's nice to have that little break to kind of get dressed up and create stuff and kind of fuel that side of my personality, I guess you could say, because as much as I love being on the ranch, I do like dressing up, and I do enjoy putting makeup on and creating content and taking pictures. And so that's been really cool. And I've also kind of been able to gear it a little bit towards helping companies in agriculture, not as much as I would like to. I would love to be able to help older farmers or ranchers that really aren't sure how to use social media. I would love to be able to help them, advertise their product if they're trying to do direct to consumer and things like that. But there's just not a large market for that around here. But I have worked with a few equine companies and done some like shampoos and conditioners and different things like that. But even just being able to help small boutiques is so fun for me. And that's really what I love behind it, is kind of creating the stuff for them. And I mean, I like sharing it too. It's a lot of fun, but that's
Yeah.
kinda how I got here, I guess.
Yeah, no, and that's really cool. And thanks for kind of sharing that too, as to the why that you're doing it, because, as you had mentioned before, everybody's going to judge everyone for something, right? And I think that from what I've seen a little bit too on social media, it's like, oh, people, put on these really cool clothes, but you're not a cowgirl, you're not a cowboy, and they just look at what's,
Right.
that picture, and it's like, no, hold on. And then as you explain it, it's like, no, wait a minute. There's like a whole big why behind it of like one, just bringing awareness to the Western industry in the first place. And two, like being able to help these smaller farms and ranches and who need help, who don't really know how to do marketing, who've never really had to do it before and don't have the time to do it. They're taking care of the ranch most. So, having that like why behind it is so important. And it's important for people to know too, rather than just kind of being like, oh, casting a judgment on somebody or whoever, for taking, oh, like they just want to dress up. And it's like, no, hold on. That's not quite true, you know?
Absolutely. And even the other day I had posted a picture, which I mean, I have heard it all. I've seen it all. I'm used to it at this point. But I had posted a picture that I had taken the night that I did my bridals. My sister-in-law did my bridals, and she had this, she's a photographer, so she had this rust-colored dress, and she was like, "Hey, can we shoot this dress? I want to use it to be able to, show my clients and everything." And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Like we're already out here," because I did my bridals with my horses. And so it was just like a very like Western editorial picture, this big rust colored dress. I was on my breakaway horse and I was holding a barrel saddle. And somebody commented on there and they were like, it was an older gentleman. And basically he was just like, "And what is this actually doing for true Western people?" or something along those lines. And it's just so funny because you can see a picture on the internet and you can judge, but you don't truly know the person. He probably didn't even look at my profile, which is fine. I don't care. But I think about all the other girls out there that are doing it, and they may want to post a picture of them dressed up and then they get stuff like that. And it's just so negative and so judgmental. And there's such a stigma around, well, if you're going to be a ranch wife or you're going to be a cowgirl, like you can't dress up or you can't look nice. You got to fit the mold. And that's just not true. I mean, if I would get up early enough, which I don't, I could put a full face of makeup on to go work cows just for myself. Nobody else is out there, but that doesn't affect my ability to ride or, how I handle the cattle or how I work or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's just so mind-blowing to me how people can be so judgmental and when they don't truly know.
Yeah, I know. I like to call them like the keyboard warriors, and there's still somebody behind that screen and at the end of the day, and you've got to just think about that. And for being somebody who obviously has a big following and you put yourself out there a lot, how do you handle kind of those negative comments and kind of the negativity or from people who are quite frankly just making stupid remarks, that just have no idea. But how have you been handling that?
Honestly, I just try not to even give it another thought. Sometimes I will share it with my thoughts on it just to help others that may be experiencing that or someone that's afraid to, dress nice to work on the ranch or dress nice to go to a roping or something like that because they're afraid of that. I'll use it and be like, "You don't know, like it doesn't affect," kind of how I was saying, it doesn't affect my ability to ride or anything like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, they don't know me. They can comment whatever they want. I mean, everybody's going to judge. There's Your best friend could judge you and you know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't matter who they are. Everybody has something to say. And so you kind of just have to let it go and know in your heart that that's not the truth. And
Yeah.
honestly, that's just it. I mean, I just really try not to let it bother me.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, these people don't really know you at all. So how can they make those kind of comments, And it really doesn't, when you kind of think about it at the end of the day, it's that comment doesn't even hold weight. You've never even spoken to me or met me before. So, okay.
Yeah. And actually a funny story, my father-in-law actually told this at one of our like wedding reception parties we had. So when he met me, I showed up to the ranch, I was with rope, I had my makeup on, I was dressed nice. And if you ask him, he literally was like thinking in his head, like, who is this girl and like why is she here? Like she's some hoity-toity, you know, Barbie doll looking thing, why why did my son bring her to the ranch? And I went with them to work cows one day, and I guess he watched me ride, and he just like thought in his head, like, holy cow, like I gotta take back what I was thinking, just because he was
Yeah.
judging on how I looked and he realized that I actually could ride and do all of that. And it's just kind of funny. He tells it a lot better than I do, but
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. He's apologized to me before and he's like, I'm so sorry I thought that. And I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, and that just goes for anything in life too, right? Like we're so quick to judge something or think something of someone just based on, not even how they look, but even just what they do, and you make kind of like a judgment in your head, which we all do it, right? We're all
Yes,
human.
yeah, absolutely.
So with the brands that you kind of work with now, how has that been going for you? Are you and like what are your future goals for building your brand?
Yeah, it's been going really well. I've got to work with Cavenders quite a bit this last year, kind of the end of 23 going into 24, and I absolutely love them. They are so amazing to work with. And so that's been a lot of fun. I recently did a shoot with Justin actually here at the ranch, which was really cool because we were kind of trying to help them capture that true lifestyle, of being on the ranch and, being a Western brand. And so that was a lot of fun. You were kind of talking about us roping and doing the videos for them. It was really, really cool. And I'm so grateful they were able to come out here and kind of let us be a part of that. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So my goals for that are kind of to just keep working with companies and, incorporating other companies into the Western lifestyle and showing how they can be part of it, Um, that's just it's also a lot of fun for me, like I said, and so, just kinda gives me something else to do, keeps me busy, and I would like to maybe eventually use it for marketing, if the ranch ever decided to go direct to consumer, I would love to do the branding and marketing for that, I would really enjoy that, and, even helping somebody else, I think that would be so much fun, so
Yeah.
that's kinda
Yeah.
where I'm at with that.
That's awesome. You touched on it a little bit too, but I thought that the pictures that you had posted with that Justin shoot was really cool because from the pictures that you shared, it was, oh wow, this is really cool. It really brought people into the day to day and what you guys really do. And, knowing you a little bit and knowing that you actually do really work on the ranch, and that was really cool to see. So, what has it been like for you coming onto the ranch, marrying into a ranching family and making your place and finding your role there?
Yeah, so we actually kind of talked about organized roles at Ranching for Profit, and I think that's been something that's been really hard coming into it is I didn't know a lot about ranching. I may have had an agriculture background, but that doesn't teach you how to ranch, there's a lot that goes into it. And I'm hesitant to say, but I still don't truly know my role, it's kind of just rolling with the punches or you know, doing what I can do to help because as much as I do go and work alongside the guys, there's also a lot of stuff that I'm just physically not strong enough to do or not able to do here. And I think a lot of women in agriculture face that. And, there's some that may be a little bit tougher than me that can handle it. And um, I think it's just been a challenge to feel comfortable. Even when you do know things, like I feel like as a woman, we still question ourselves because I feel like we get judged twice as hard. And I am so grateful that it's my family now that I'm working with because that's not the case for everybody. And I feel like women trying to find jobs in agriculture, you get judged so hard, and it can be so hard even if you do have the qualifications. They're like, "Well, she can't do that," or they're so hesitant to it. And I also feel like they don't want to let women kind of in on it, even going and working cows and things like that. Um, I don't know,
Yeah.
that's just kind of my thoughts on it. So it has been a
Yeah.
big challenge. I'm very grateful for everything I've learned. Like I said, I still feel like kind of knowing my role, especially coming into a family, I feel like you don't want to step on toes and you don't want to overstep. I mean, this is their ranch, and so you want to be really careful with things. I mean, you may have an idea, but you also don't want to throw it out there and offend somebody or things like that. So
Right.
that's definitely been a challenge. And you don't want to overstep, and so.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I do agree with you. And for me, personally, I've been pretty fortunate for the last several years since I have gotten into this, having people be really open to giving me opportunities, be able to learn and be on the ranch and work. But I definitely feel like I've also experienced a little bit of the, oh, you're a woman, you can't really do it. I tried to come in with the ranch that I was at before and being like, I'm going to jump into the tractor and I'm going to learn how to do this because I want to be able to do anything that a guy does. However, keeping in mind that, yeah, there are going to be some things that I'm not going to be able to do as well as a man. And that's okay. We don't have to be able to do everything, I don't think. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I think, there are certain roles but I also think that we should, be able to be given the opportunity to learn. And I say that in a way where, you know, you show up and you prove yourself. Like you've obviously done that, you know, and even just meeting you at Ranch It for Profit, you know, even the first day you were talking about all of this stuff that you know about ranching and all of the, you know, the operation at the family ranch and everything. And yeah, you've like really picked up so much stuff. And because you had, and I say that because you had said, you know, I didn't grow up ranching, we just did horses and whatnot. So I think it's so important for people who really do want to get into agriculture and ranching specifically, is to be able to kind of have that like open mindset of being like, I'm here to learn, teach me whatever you want to teach me, but I'm here, I want to learn, and I'm willing to put in the hard work to do so. You know, I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we kind of talked about it a little bit too. You were saying, in the future, if you were to look for a job or be looking for a job, how you just didn't feel like you had that much experience and, that was hard for you. And that was so crazy for me to hear, because same thing when I listen to you talk, I'm like, wow, like I want to learn everything from you. Like I want to absorb all the information. Like you were just so intelligent, especially with like soils and just everything like that. You have such a broad range of knowledge and things that I want to learn more of. And speaking on the topic of learning, like I also feel like that is a hard thing in agriculture, is because it's such a hardworking industry. I mean, we're working 24/7, basically. You always got to take care of animals, even on holidays, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
older farmers and ranchers don't necessarily always want to take the time to teach. And so it is hard for people that are coming into it, because they're like, hey, I want to learn. I'm here to learn. And it's like, well, if you don't already know how to do it, like I don't have the time to teach you. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's so disheartening and so hard, because there are so many people that want to get into it, but it's hard to, and they don't know how to. And all it takes is one person to tell them, I can't, I don't have the time to teach you, to discourage them. And so I do think that's really hard. And I wish I was better at sharing on my social media more educational things to help people. That is something I really want to work on. But at the same time, it's very intimidating for me because I'm still learning. And so I don't want to put something out there that's not necessarily, I wouldn't say accurate, but doesn't have all the information that it needs to have, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
No, and I totally agree with that too, because I think the same exact thing, you know, like I just shared a podcast episode yesterday talking about like the big four meat packers and how they control the beef supply and certain things with like the product of the USA labeling and all of that. And as I was sharing it, you know, and I had recorded it a couple of weeks ago, and then the whole ruling came in for the product of the USA labeling. And then you kind of think you know have all the information, and then over the last few weeks there's like all this other information coming out. So I went on and I did like a little bit of an intro for it, for that
mhm.
very reason, because I, you know, if I'm going to put something out there and share it, I want to make sure that it is to the best of my knowledge. And if there's something that like I didn't cover or that I missed, like I really do want to try to make sure that I am offering up information that, you know, is accurate. And you know, it can be hard sometimes, but I think that that's the nature of the industry too, and always just trying to keep that like open learning mindset of like, I don't know everything. And even towards the end of my life, like I want to always keep learning. You know, I'm not going to know everything. And I don't, you know, I don't really want to, you know, you want to always keep learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I love learning. And that's I feel like sometimes I ask so many questions. Even my husband, sometimes I'm like, okay, this is a dumb question, but like
yeah.
I want to, I want to be able to be involved in it. And so it's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it is. It totally. And I agree with that too. I feel like there are some things that, you know, especially on the ranch, because it can be really intimidating. And I'd love to get your opinion on this too, of just like advice that you would give to people, and women especially, who really, you know, are thinking about getting into agriculture and really want to try, but feel really intimidated. Because I know for me, I definitely felt intimidated at first. And when I, you know, first got to the ranch, there was questions that I asked, but I was like, I don't really want to ask this because I don't want to sound dumb, or like I don't know anything, you know. And fortunately, like I said, I have had some great experiences with people, you know, being a mentor to me and whatnot. But anyway, I would love for you to kind of share your opinion on just like advice that you would give women on, they might be seeing your social media, or they're just, I love horses, but haven't really had an experience on a ranch or whatever, and they're thinking of doing it. What would your advice be to them to kind of follow that path?
I would say just don't be afraid to reach out to people. You have to ask questions. And even if you have people that, do turn you down or ignore you, or, you feel judged by them, there's always going to be somebody to go along with that one person that won't help. There's always going to be somebody that will. And, you kind of talk about being intimidated and things like that. I was sharing on my story the other day how, they're saying, 2024 is the year of country, or, all these things from all these new artists like Beyonce coming out with pop country music, whatever you may call it.
Yeah.
There's just so many different opinions that are being shared. And, this is my opinion. This is a chance for agriculture to have everybody's eyes on it. And this is our chance to, be kind and be welcoming and share the advice and share our knowledge with them. Because although, I've seen stuff saying, well, Beyonce could have hired somebody to make sure her saddle pad was on, or make sure this was right, and make sure, yeah, she could have. But at the end of the day, so many more people are looking into the Western industry. So many more people want to buy boots. They want to, they want to ride a horse, or they want to know about it. And I just think that that's something we should focus on. And when we talk about people wanting to get into it, you and I have talked about it firsthand, how there's so many people that you just feel judged or you don't feel welcomed. And that is the worst feeling to have, especially when you're trying to chase your dreams or you're trying to do something new. When there's somebody there judging you or making you feel like you don't belong, that hurts. And
Yeah.
I just don't ever want to be that way for somebody. And so what I would say is find that person that is welcoming, the person that is willing to give you advice, the one that says, there are no dumb questions, because I promise they're out there. And there are those that, may discourage you, but there are so many out there that are willing to help. And once you kind of find those people, it is such an amazing group of people to be involved in. And the agriculture community really is so kind and welcoming. And there are just some that, kind of shed a bad light, and that's okay. You have
Yeah.
that in literally everything, everywhere in life. So that's
Yeah.
my advice to it.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, because you brought up so many good points. Like, there's always going to be that one bad egg somewhere, right? And
Yes.
you can't let that one person or even a couple people discourage you. You got to keep going for the yeses, and for the place that is going to be the right place for you, and just not be afraid to keep going and have that almost like narrow minded focus on, like, this is my dream, so I'm just going to chase it no matter like who says no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing up all that about the Beyonce stuff and everything. And I sometimes like, when I've seen it on social media and everything, and see people posting about it. I always say this, and maybe this is like an insecurity of mine, because I know you and I had talked about this at the ranching for profit. But I'm like, I always kind of sometimes lead with, I didn't grow up doing this, because I feel like in the very beginning I did have some people kind of judge me for it, or like, oh, you don't know anything because you didn't grow up doing it. So I'm trying to catch myself lately not saying that so much, but it's just been like this ingrained thing where I'm like, well, I didn't grow up ranching, so like here. So almost, anything I say after that, it's like knocking myself down. And I'm like, why am I doing that to
Yes.
myself?
I do the same thing. And I think it's like a protection for us, almost like
Yeah.
a preface to what we're gonna say of, well, if I say something wrong, this is why. Like, please don't judge me, I guess, is what we're
Yeah.
saying. It is so hard. I completely agree with that.
Thank you for sharing all that. And I think that, like you said, we can always, no matter where we are in our agriculture journey, like, just being kind and welcoming to whoever. And you're obviously doing that. Just being open to helping people, I think, is, what makes the world go round. That sounds really cliche, but
I like it.
yeah. Cool. So I would love to just talk a little bit more about some personal stuff. And I know, like, coming from me, I have just, thinking about talking to you today and over the last like week or so, some things have been coming up for me around like family dynamics and relationships and things like that. And I know you and I had talked a little bit about it, at Ranching for Profit and whatnot, but just in terms of like family dynamics on the ranch, and then our role as women, and the decision to have kids or not have kids. And, personally for me, it's been a something that's come up for me in the last couple of years. And it just as again, as I was talking or thinking about talking to you today and you had shared something about it, I just think it's important for us to be talking about it, because for women who are in our situation, or for women who are maybe like, whether they're in ranching or not, like, I'm not really sure if I want to have kids, or I don't know how it fits into my lifestyle, and not feeling bad about it. Because for the majority, and at least, how I grew up, I never thought that I wouldn't have kids. I never thought that I, would be in my like late 30s being like, oh my gosh, I don't have kids, or, yet. And, if you can just share that a little bit, because I know you and I have talked about it a little bit, I'd love to just get your thoughts and feedback on it.
Yes, definitely. So I think a lot of it comes, from my husband's family's very religious Christian. My family's very religious Christian. They want us to have kids.
Yeah.
And especially coming from, they're a ranching family. Well, who's going to take care of the ranch when you guys get older if you guys don't have kids? Or, well, we want grandbabies. And it is. It's a lot of pressure, so especially in a society, there's so many different things that surround it. And there's some women that struggle with fertility. And that's just so hard on them for people to be like, well, we want grandbabies, or are you guys going to have kids? And, they're trying, which I just, I think there's just so much pressure for all women to have children. And I kind of agree with you. It's something my husband and I have talked about before we ever even got married, was the fact that we don't know that we want kids. He is my best friend. We're very happy with how our little life is. We have some really big goals that we want to accomplish and things we want to do. And not to say that kids are a bad thing, but they do take a lot of time. And I'm not saying that we will never want kids, and that may change, but I understand where you're coming from with it. How I navigate it is I kind of just laugh it off, if you want me to be honest.
Yeah.
Um my husband's grandmother, she said, "Oh, well, I'm about to die. Are you ever going to give me grandbabies before I go?" Kind of making a joke, and I just hold my dog up and I say, "Here's your grandbaby." And so I feel like they put so much pressure for you to have kids, but that's not their decision and it's not their life. And they've already lived their life and they had kids and they got to do the things they wanted to do. And I think it's really hard, especially in like the Western industry. I feel like it is very much so like you have to have kids, and they are going to be the ones to take over the ranch or the family farm. Or and then I think that turns into, okay, well, you're saying we have to have the kids take over the family ranch and the family farm, but what if they don't end up wanting the family ranch and or the family farm, and then you're putting all that pressure on them, which that's kind of a whole different topic.
Yeah.
But it kind of all circles in of, if that's going to be the reason they want you to have children or whatever, and then you're going to be impounding that in them their whole lives of, well, one day this is going to be yours.
Yeah.
um I definitely think it's difficult, and I don't really know if I answered that very well,
No,
but
yeah.
that's my outlook on it. Is I just am honest with people. I just tell them, we don't know if we want kids.
Yeah.
And I know it kind of, some people look at you like you're the worst thing ever, like, why would you not want kids? And I just, I think people should be allowed to choose.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And things look a lot different than they did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you
absolutely.
know?
Like, I would be terrified to raise a child right now with the
Yeah.
way our world is. And I know that sounds so crazy, but it is. Like, I would definitely homeschool them. Like when I when I think back, like when I was a kid, like we used to always be like, "Oh, homeschooled kids are so, just they're not good in social settings and things like that." But nowadays I'm like, I would absolutely homeschool my kids. Like I would
Hmm.
not send them to public schools with the way our world is today. And it just is kind of crazy to me to see how much everything has changed just since I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I have good friends that decided to homeschool their kids, and just learning a lot more about homeschooling from them, and seeing the kids and being around them and whatnot. And I remember we were talking one day when I was like, isn't it crazy that our parents sent us off to a school where they didn't know hardly any of the adults what really that they were teaching us for 8 hours a day. And then, like, you don't see your parents for a good chunk of the day. And it's like kind of a crazy concept. You kind of like send your kids off to a bunch of strangers and let them like teach them like life skills. And then you come back and you see them for a couple of hours and then you go to bed, and it's like, you kind of think about it after and it's like, wow, it's kind of wild. And also just the fact that like you're sending kids off to sit in a desk for like 9 hours a day, and then if they can't do it, you're like, oh well, they've got ADHD. And it's like, no,
Yes.
maybe they just can't sit for 9 hours a day, like read repeat.
Well, and I think back on it, like even at college, after everything I went through and all the things I learned, like there's just so many life skills they did not teach us that I'm like,
Right.
why is that not taught in public schools?
Right.
Like how, like you're gonna okay, so I graduated, I have my degree, you're throwing me out into the world, but there's still so much like actual life skills that I haven't learned,
Right.
and it's so crazy. Even like I feel like those are the things that should be taught in high school and should be taught, and it's just I agree. It's crazy to me when I
Yeah.
think back on.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And even just like sometimes I go in, not a conspiracy theory mode, but it's like, man, they're kind of teaching us things to be able to not, and not in a way that it's like to control, but in some ways, because it's like, why wouldn't we be taught or do our taxes or build like
Yes.
wealth, and I don't know. you
Oh,
know
girl, I am so big on conspiracy theories. I'm the worst. Like, I'll sit down, I'll be like, babe, listen to this.
I'm the same way, Liz. It's so funny. And then I get, my friends and boyfriends like, "Oh my gosh, you're crazy." And I'm like, "No, but like you gotta kind of think about this. You can't
Yeah,
trust
it makes so
anybody."
much sense.
I know, it's so funny. I normally ask everybody, and this question is asked all the time, but I just love to hear people's answers on like the best advice that you've ever been given or the best life advice that you've ever been given.
Oof. I don't really know like if it's been given, but the best advice that I would share is to just always keep God in your life. No matter what you're going through, just pray about it. It could be the middle of the day, you're having a bad day, pray. When I was younger, I think back on it, my mom used to always listen to worship music in the car, and it just used to like almost drive me nuts. Like, can we put on some country, like something I can sing along to? And now, like, that's all I want to listen to. Like,
Yeah.
it just like lifts my spirit up so much. It puts me in such a good place. And I'm not saying I have the best relationship with God. I am still learning so many things and, trying to be a better Christian. But the best advice that I would give, or maybe have gotten, I don't know if I've even ever gotten it, but just keep God in your life and just, pray and read your Bible and do your devotions, because at the end of the day, that's really what matters the most. And, we all go through seasons of waiting or hard times, and that's definitely something, the most important thing that helped me through it. So
Yeah, yeah, thank
that's
you
what I
for
would
that.
say.
No, that's a perfect answer. That's one of the best answers, and I agree. And just even talking about, the conspiracy theorists and things that you see, like I know for me, I've struggled with anxiety a lot, and especially with like the future and the state of the world and
Yes.
all of the crazy things that are happening. And I constantly have to remind myself, just even recite a verse from scripture in your head and it instantly calms me down. Or like you just said, put on worship music and there's something to it that just brings you right back down to balance. And
Yes.
really at the end of the day, no matter what you're going through, God is like the only answer. So
Absolutely. And I agree. Like, as much as I do love the conspiracies and everything, it's like sometimes you're reading about it and you're reading about everything that's going on in the world, and it makes my heart so anxious.
yeah.
And I just constantly have to remind myself, just trust in God. Like, He has a plan. Like, you're not gonna outsmart him, or you know what I mean? Like all these people that are trying to prepare or do different things. I'm like, just trust in God's plan. Like what's gonna happen is gonna happen. And that does bring just so much peace.
Yeah, yeah. And I just read something 2 or 3 days ago that really settled with me. And it was what you might look, I can't remember the exact words, but it was like what you might see as everything falling apart is exactly God's plan. He knows what he's doing. He has the plan, and it was something about like he might just be rearranging things, or I forget the exact wording, but it was really comforting because like, you know what? it just reminded me again, okay, he's got the plan. We have no idea what's coming in the future. We don't know better than him, like you said, you
Yeah.
know, so Blaze, is there anything else that you want to share? And I always like to ask too if there's like a favorite book or a favorite podcast or like a resource that just has been really instrumental in your life, whether it's, you know, just in life in general or, you know, like a resource for somebody that wants to get into the Western industry, anything like that?
So I am awful at reading books. I have like a whole bookshelf of books that I have started and not finished.
That is okay.
So I'm probably not the best to ask on that, but I used to really enjoy the Mindset Mentor podcast. It really was great to listen to. I used to listen to it all the time when I worked out. But there are so many Western podcasts to listen to help get involved, especially like yours for one.
Well, thank you.
And there are a lot of there are a lot of other ones out there. And then it is a little pricey, but if you are at a point where you're wanting to learn more, I definitely do think the Ranching for Profit was so amazing. It's not necessarily as much on like the ranching itself, but like there's so much that underline that goes into it, and the books that go along with it are really great too. We had to read the one before we went to the school, and Rope actually got the second one, and he just finished it, and I kind of think I want to read it, but I'm probably not the best person to ask for resources. I'm so bad about that.
No, that's great. Those are great answers. So thanks for sharing that. Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, Blaze, and I think our audience is going to get a lot out of it and really relate. So thanks for all that you're doing, you know, for the Western industry and for continuing to share what you do and sharing your why behind it. And yeah, thanks for being here. We really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.